There's two sides to every coin. Then there's a conversation you can join. But I'm an old dog and there's new tricks. And some of my opinions you just can't fix. 'Cause I'm an old man yelling at the sky. I'ma shake my fists at the clouds and cry. Get off my lawn, you snowflake, before I have a meltdown, breakdown, shakedown. 'Cause this is my hometown, so back down, sports clown. It's all just a game, and it's the last down, let down, cowtown. I said it's all just a game. I give the touchdown, the rundown, the lowdown. 'Cause it's over the game. Gonna crack down, and shut down, the sundown. I said it's all just a game.
Hi, kids. Welcome to the show. It's just a game. I am me. You are you. We're an inclusive show. Everybody here is welcome, except haters. You got hate in your heart, beat it. If you think it's okay to discriminate against somebody because of your opinion of them, beat it. We're broadcasting live from Treaty 7 territory, and we say that because it's respectful. We've got pretty important guests coming up. Ryan Pike, Will Nault in studio. We got a lot of Flames stuff to get through and cut through. And Ty, I warned you. So for those who didn't understand the tweet earlier today, and for those who know or have been listening, you know that Ty is one of my superhero players, and he doesn't like it when I swear. And I swore when I was on the barn burner, and Ty didn't like it. And since then, I've tried to keep the swearing to a minimum. This isn't that day, so Ty, I'm already apologizing to you. Cowardice. Let's talk about cowardice. Yesterday, the National Hockey League's Board of Governors decided that, and predictably so, I mean, we knew this was coming, that next year they would take the steps and remove the opportunity for teams to have social causes, cultural causes represented in a pregame warm-up jersey. This is, of course, on the heels of what transpired this year. This is on the course of the heels of guests that we had on this program, conversations we've had on this program. This is a divisive social issue, and it has nothing to do with Indigenous culture today. It has nothing to do with Black culture today. It has nothing to do with cancer. It has nothing to do with the military. It has everything to do with pride. It has everything to do with the LGBTQ2 community. And that's what this is about. And a whole bunch of old white guys got in a room and decided, we don't want to inconvenience our delicate geniuses anymore. It was hard on Eric Stahl having to answer a question about why he lied when he never said he wore a Pride jersey, and yet there was video of him in a Montreal Canadiens Pride jersey. This was hard on James Reimer. This was hard on Provorov. This was hard. Our players, they're delicate geniuses. They make millions of dollars, and we need to hide them away, wrap them in bubble wrap. I wish this whole decision, in a way, I kind of wish it was about hate. The National Hockey League saying they don't count, they don't matter. It isn't. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with wanting to protect their delicate geniuses from the outside world. There are owners in this league who have asked their general managers and their front office staff to cut down the amount of public relations work their players do because it's costing them games. This decision yesterday throws line staff from the league office and every one of those teams under the bus. because they bust their asses, they bust their humps every year to try and prove that hockey is truly for everyone. But because this pride issue is inconvenient to the delicate geniuses, and I am talking about the players, I am talking about athletes who believe that it's very difficult. Goalies don't talk on game days. You can't talk to a goalie. Why? Why? Oh, they're focused. Oh, fuck off. Fuck off. Fuck right off. It's bullshit. You're covering up and you're protecting them. And you know what you did? Just like this, you handed this homophobic, hateful group, small, but they're there, whiners and complainers. Oh, why do we have to do that? I don't believe in it. I don't agree with it. Screw off. You're giving shelter to hate. You're giving them ammunition to see, well, the NHL said it's okay because they did away with it. They won't allow pride jerseys anymore. We win. It must actually be an argument. This must be an argument. No, it's not. This is rooted in politics, and this is a sports show, but I will deviate for this second. There is a minor fringe element which is now taken over one of the two streams, if you will, whatever we want to call. It's the right side, of which I consider myself part of up until recently, the right side. But it's not all people on the right. It's not all people who, consider themselves conservative or Republican or whatever you want to designate. But they need a villain. They always need a villain. I am 53 years old. I can list for you all of the villains that have been created for us. Black people, South Asian people, Native people, Indigenous people, Muslims. Remember when our mayor was going to institute Sharia law? Oh, yeah, no. They're doing all these teachers now. They're doing all this grooming. Bullshit. You need a villain. You need somebody to make people scared. And it stops. It has to end. And the National Hockey League took the coward's way out. And they threw their own staffs under the bus. Do you know how hard? And I don't believe for a second that the Calgary Flames went there saying they needed to make changes. I don't. I know the foundation. I know the people over there. You know how hard they worked on those jerseys? You know how proud they were of the work that they did? My God, we had Dr. Tyler White here on Wednesday talking about how significant it was to have a warm-up jersey that represented Treaty 7 nations and their culture. We had Brent Dodginghorse in this studio not that long ago talking about how important it was. We had Bane Pettinger, player agent, gay man, on this show talking about his client, Luke Prokop, and how damaging these player protests are. All due respect to my former peers, the people that took, well, hey, Rob, it's okay. They can still do Pride nights. Yep, they can, but they can't do the jersey part. They can't. That's the whole point in this. That's the whole goddamn point in this. When we say you don't matter as much, that's hate. That's hate. And the NHL caved to hate yesterday. I am fired up about this. And I'll tell you why I'm fired up about this. Because it hits me personally. I have friends in the community. I have coworkers in the community. I have family in the community. And to see people think that somehow this is okay to say they don't matter as much. And they'll do it under the guise of, well, we did away with all of it. Oh, I see. So hockey fights cancer. Screw it. It's done. Oh, but we can still auction off the jerseys. Not the same thing. Just isn't the same thing. Isn't the same thing. They had a chance to lead. The National Hockey League had a chance to lead. The players had a chance to lead. And they chose the coward's way out. I am an ally. And I know I have a lot of friends who are allies. I've seen it on social media. Yeah, I jumped on this right away. Throw me up the RCMP one, please, Jack. Thanks, Jack. Same day. Alberta RCMP, recent spike in hate incidents involving two SLGBTQ plus communities that prompts RCMP to encourage all Albertans to report any hate-related incidents to cops. The same day. This is why Pride Nights matter. The same day. It's illegal. Hate is illegal. But for some of us, it's okay. For some of us, that I've seen it with apartheid. I've seen it with the Muslim community. I've seen it with New Canadians. I've seen it with black people all my life. Somebody's got to be the villain. Somebody's got to be not quite as good as us. There's some value, institutional value, in keeping a segment of the population down. And the NHL bowed because it was inconvenient. Inconvenient. I had a friend of mine in the league said, yeah, this is a terrible look, but, you know, it's on the league and the media. It's on the media. Well, the media always asks about it. It's kind of a story when a player refuses to do it, or it makes the whole team stop doing it. You guys understand how much of this has to do with mental health? Some kid out there who's questioning who they are has just been told by the National Hockey League, you're too big of an inconvenience. Too big of an inconvenience. But we'll take the coward's way out because we'll wipe everything else out. Throw up Tyler's, will you? Dr. Tyler White, our guest. Not surprised. None of us were. Disappointed. Absolutely. NHL's decision to discontinue warm-up jerseys. We know personally how powerful they were for our nation. Reconsider it. Does way more harm and sets us all back again. And I cannot stress this enough. There are good people at the National Hockey League offices who are trying to make sure hockey is for everyone. There are good people, the Calgary Flames, the Edmonton Oilers, the Vancouver Canucks, the Colorado Avalanche, the Carolina Hurricanes, the Florida Panthers, who are doing and see the importance of making this an inclusive game. But I'm done with this bullshit about, okay, well, it's no longer about skin color. It's no longer about heritage. Now it's your sexual preference. Now we'll go after you about that. What's next? What's next? Again, 4 or 5 people I had to block last night. They want to negotiate, not interested. I'm wrong, don't fucking care. They want to send me their conspiracy theories about grooming. You never heard anything about drag queens reading at libraries until a couple years ago when the right lost an enemy. They had to create one. So this is the audience we'll target now. Bullshit. Do better. I am a product of failure. I am not an angel. I have made mistakes. I have said the words that I no longer say and have pledged not to say. I've thought things that were wrong, but I can evolve. So can the rest of us. Reconsider this. This is not what this game is about. Good on the Ontario League teams or the BCHL teams that have come out and said they're not going to stop doing it. Sports is supposed to be fun. This isn't fun. But I have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to call out hate. This is not hate-based because they're protecting their players, but they've just given anybody who has hate in their heart ammunition. This was done because it was inconvenient for millionaires. Let that sink in for a second. It's inconvenient for millionaires. Whew. Going to be an ally. You are always welcome here. And I love lots of people in the National Hockey League. Love them, love them, love them. Love the game. But we have let people down. In some ways, we put people in harm's way. And in other ways, we have just given hateful people ammunition. I'd like to say this is the last I'm going to say about it, but it ain't. Probably not even on this show. But I digress. The worst part about it is how predictable this was. This was so predictable. So predictable. Jack, did we not talk about this on the show?
Yes, we did.
Thank you. So predictable. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, how do you segue here? Did our guest leave? Did he just jump off? Did he? Okay, he hung in there. God bless him. Our guest, of course, brought to you by Ski Cellar Snowboard, skicellarsnowboard.com, 76 years in Calgary. Location open right now, McLeod Trail and Chinook Center. With that said, he is kind enough to join us 2 days in a row. Looks like he's nervous. He shouldn't be. He is the managing editor.
I'm always a little nervous.
You're always a little nervous? What are you nervous about?
Oh, I mean, last time we spoke, news broke during our conversation that became immediately pertinent.
But we handled it. You had it covered.
And I think, it's in some ways a pleasure just to sit back in the waiting room and watch you cook, because when you get on a rant and you're on it the way you are, it's fun listening. I'll say this. I mean, we don't need to go to, I think you covered all the bases. Historically, sports has been an amazing place to induce uncomfortable conversations about things that we really need to be having conversations about. I mean, dating back to Jesse Owens in the Olympics, and that's probably the best historical example I can think of. But I'll say this. I know, talking to folks around the league, there's plenty of smart people who are going to have to get a little bit more creative to bring visibility, some things that they want to bring visibility to. And I wish they didn't have to work as hard, because I think the system they had before, while imperfect, was, I think, a very nice way of bringing visibility. But, I'm really curious. There's a lot of buildings that house National Hockey League clubs and American League clubs, or clubs from other lower leagues. I'm really curious what kind of partnerships we see emerge from this, in order to sort of, figure out ways to make, these important causes more visible.
I would be shocked if CSEC's other teams didn't blow it out of the water.
They already do a very good job, but I think
Absolutely.
they're going to be, these folks are going to be very motivated. And, these are we talked about this during the season. Man, they did some sweet jerseys last year. I thought the Lunar New Year jersey was amazing. The Black History Month was sort of devoted to Jerome McGinley's personal history was just fantastic. Like, the amount of detail they put into it. So I am A, disappointed that it's come to this, and B, kind of excited to sort of see what these guys have up their sleeves, because there's a lot of really talented people who are, they've been thrown a bit of a curveball, but I think, hopefully cooler heads prevail at some point.
Yeah.
But, I'm excited to sort of see what kind of amazing creative things these guys can come up with.
And like I said, I felt bad because, I had some people that I know in the business go, hey, we can still do the nights and we can still do the merchandise. It's just they can't wear it in warm up. That's not the point. That's not the point. The point is you change something because it was uncomfortable for your millionaire players. You changed. Ryan, I swear to God, I believe this in my heart of hearts. The NHL did not do anything out of spite or anger. It's just, once again, the delicate geniuses. We have to rub them. We can't make them go through this. Eric Stahl, I think I've called him every name but Eric. Eric Stahl bold-faced lied about this and got called on it. James Reimer, good on him. And whatever, he said his piece. But the damage has been done. And I feel like we've been robbed of some, take nothing away from the Flames, which I agree with you. But New Jersey and Vancouver for the last 3 or 4 years have been just crushing these things, right? Like, they really ran with it and really, they had some really cool designs, and I think it pushed the bar up, right?
Agreed. And I think especially, Vancouver's integration of some of the South Asian community into the things they're doing, and a lot of the indigenous relations they've been doing. I think it pushed a lot of groups all around the league to be better. And honestly, on and off the ice, that's kind of what you want. You want people to sort of be behaving in cool, creative ways without the shackles on, and being able to sort of just get creative in the ways they want to get creative. So, yeah, I think you said it better than I could. So,
sure.
But yeah, it's a disappointing day, but hopefully, I think there's been enough public reaction to it that maybe we see it walked back at some point, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. And I don't know. It's just, it's a failure of leadership. The league had an opportunity to lead in this category. Did the Calgary Flames get season ticket holders call and complain about Pride Night, Pride jerseys? Absolutely they did. Every team in the league that did it did.
But do you know what I also think they got calls about? I think they got calls about, damn, why can't we buy these jerseys in store? Why are these jerseys not as easy to get? Because I believe the warm-up jerseys were only auctioned off.
That's right.
And a lot of people who talk to me, I got people in my DMs going, holy cow, these things are amazing. Why? Right. I wish they were available more widely. So maybe
that's the rant I want to do.
Maybe there's NHL rules that teams have to follow for warm-up jerseys. They can't do certain things for sales with warm-up jerseys that they can do with other things. So maybe this allows them, it takes away the visibility and their ability to promote these causes, but it might make it a little bit easier for them to raise money for these causes because they might be less restricted in what they can do with the merch.
I hope so.
I don't know.
No, it's a fair point. It's a fair point. And I'm glad you did, because again, I hold no line staff responsible. I don't look at,
goodness
no. There's so many young people and even veteran people who are working at the NHL offices trying to grow the game of hockey. This does not help them.
I think you and I know a good amount of them, and they categorically they work their asses off. And,
absolutely.
But
they get thrown under the bus today, right? This undermines them. All
Definitely.
The work that they've been doing. All right. Let's shift gears.
All right. Which of the 1,600 Flame stories you want to get into now? Well, let me check Twitter to make sure nothing broke in the
yeah. Well,
okay, we're good. We're good.
Yeah. By the way, I'm not asking to get out. Just your overall thought on the day, Ryan, and I certainly. My intention here is not to put Frank Seravalli on trial. He's as good and qualified an insider as we have in the National Hockey League. Having said that, I'm not sure that I ever saw one guy dump as much information.
This was almost the expansion draft again, eh?
Yeah, maybe that's the best example of it. It just felt like, holy cow. Why now? Why all of it at one time?
I think because it's relevant and it's very pertinent information. I'd say, the cooler thing was sort of seeing, granted we're sort of in the fishbowl, but sort of seeing, we had Frank do his hit with the 960 morning show in the morning and then tweet out right afterwards. And then before Elliot Friedman's hit on 590 that's syndicated with Merrick, he made sure he's like, okay, let's hit on these things too. It was really cool to sort of see some the context built into it. So from everything we're aware of, this is just off the top of my head. One, Elias Lindholm reportedly has a contract offer on the table from the Flames.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, all indications are he has not made up his mind yet. He is a year away from free agency. If he stays with the Flames, they'll throw a crap ton of money at him. I believe the number will be somewhere between 8.5 and 9. He'll be, the second highest paid player of the team outside of Jonathan Huberdeau. And he'll make a good amount of money no matter where he goes. So it's just a question of, does he like what the plan is here? And so far, he's mulling it over. And the Flames reportedly are not, they're preaching patience. They're not pushing him to go, come on, man, come on, man, come on, man. Like, they're letting him take his time, which is, I think, very, very smart and very respectful. And it's what you should be doing in this situation. So that's Lindholm. Hannafin, according to various sources, has told the Flames that he would probably prefer to go to the United States. And so, they're I think the general belief is he'll be traded at some point in this offseason. Will he be traded by the draft? Don't know. There's, I think it's been mentioned on various outlets, they're trying to get it right rather than sort of rush to get things done by a certain date. I mean, the date they have to have things done by is October 10th when the season starts. But until then, I think they can, take their time and sort of ease into it. Who else? Tyler Toffoli also apparently would rather play somewhere else. Told them, not really sure I'm going to sign. Sorry, guys. And so it sounds like he will likely be traded again at some point, TBD. Michael Backlund, according to Elliot Friedman, he believes he has been offered the captaincy as part of a negotiation. Backlund, so far, it seems like he's kind of,
For what it's worth, and I'm not an insider, but I'm very comfortable in saying that I have it directly from the source. He has not made up his mind.
Yeah, and it's a big decision, especially he's 34, he'll be 35 whenever his next contract begins, and I'm sure if he saw a group on paper that looked like a team, if he saw a group on paper that looked like the 2019 team, he'd probably go, okay, yeah, but it's tough to win, and if you have the choice of going somewhere that has a track record of winning, or at least going on longer playoff runs than Calgary does, maybe you're willing to go and try something else. So that seems like he's up in the air. There's been no general indications yet about the fates of Nikita Zadorov or the fate of Oliver Shillington. Shillington's on his way. He's going to be, I believe he's still in Europe, but he's going to be coming back for the regular season. The expectation is he'll be a full participant in training camp. It's basically, last year was sort of just, burn the tape, and then he'll be back as a regular participant this year. Of all the players, I think Shillington's probably the guy that you'd go, well, yeah, let's see how he looks between now and Christmas, and then figure out what you want to do. And, he's, I think, to be blunt, I think there's a lot of respect between the organization and the player in terms of, a lot of organizations would have been more vocal about the situation that Shillington was going through. And I think the Flames are really respectful of the player's privacy. And I think they were really, good at sort of just giving him the space to deal with what he needed to deal with. And I think that goes a long way for goodwill of the player. And, they really like the player. I think the player likes the organization, but he also hasn't played in a year. So I think they both kind of want to see, given the changes in the organization, if he likes the environment, if he likes his role, if he likes the player, vice versa. So, there's been a lot of, just of the Magnificent Seven, there's a lot of stuff swirling around. It sounds like, getting Lindholm and Hanifin situations dealt with, or at least some clarity on those two fronts are the big two dominoes to go. And then from there, they'll figure out what you have to do. Because, let's be completely blunt here. If Elias Lindholm, your best center, says, see ya, A, it completely changes your cap situation. And B, all of a sudden, like maybe other things you wanted to do change entirely. Maybe all of a sudden you're like, well, if you think you're going to have Elias Lindholm for 8 years versus if you think he's going to be gone, that changes how you approach Michael Backlund, even if he's going to be 35 when the season starts. So, it's shortage of stuff to talk about, eh?
Yeah, and add to that though too. Like, let's just say for a second that Lindholm's your linchpin, right?
That's
Hanifin's
the term.
Yeah, and Toffoli's there, but your linchpin. What are you being offered? All right, because unbeknownst to us, right? Dougie Hamilton got traded for Lindholm and Hanifin. Now, I don't want to say
Dougie Hamilton. Granted, he was still under team control, but he wasn't signed. He was an RFA.
That's right.
Hanifin and Lindholm, when they got traded to Calgary, RFAs with no contracts.
But they were good pickups.
They were good pickups,
as opposed to draft picks. Now, I'm not saying it's a fleecing because Adam Fox was included in that deal, although he never signs in Carolina, et cetera, et cetera. But is it, is your mindset if you're Craig Conroy, and I know what a large segment of the population is, I would rather have draft capital. I would rather have assets in this year's draft. But what is he being offered?
Yeah. Well, here's if you think that you're going to have Elias Lindholm for the next 8 years, that changes what you'll accept for Noah Hanifin, right?
Correct. Absolutely.
But if you think they're both gone, then you're like, okay, maybe, if we don't want to use the word, rebuild, I would say strategic reset. Like you still have some good pieces. It's not like you're the 1974-75 Washington Capitals. No. You have some good pieces. You have some young pieces. You're going to be able to flip these guys for draft picks, for good prospects, for guys who are up and comers. I think the big challenge is just the idea of, okay, like you gotta kind of know what Lindholm's thinking before anything else happens, because that's your pivot point, right?
Yep. I agree. I want to talk to you about something that I'm almost positive you and I talked about during the regular season. And it's something that I bring up all the time when referencing last summer, that, Johnny leaves, and Matt leaves. By the way, I do want to throw out that, when we're dealing with reports, there were reports both of those guys were going to sign last year at different times.
Plans change, man.
Plans change.
Change.
So, everybody that set their hair on fire yesterday might have been a little premature. Maybe not, but might have been. Let's deal with the Calgary conundrum. And I wrote this down today as Canadian Equalization Part 2, ? Because there was and we talked about this too, back in 2000, 2001, 2002, you said it, I think, on the last show, that I don't think people appreciate how close this team was to leaving. And part of that was couldn't compete dollar-wise, couldn't compete with the big spending teams. They have a lockout for a whole year. We get a salary cap and things change. But it almost seems like now a Canadian market with an old building, with a history of just muddling around, in, out, doesn't really take any risks, that, let's be perfectly honest, in many ways is just, on many cases, just run of the mill, is not a destination that players want to play at. We've had this conversation. I'm not sure
it's so much a destination. Like, when people are like, "Oh, this is," I'll say this. When your philosophy is burn the boats, like the mantra under the Flames, at least, I'll say flat out, I've been told this explicitly, at least under Brad Treliving, and I believe it was similar under previous regimes, but definitely the marching orders for Brad Treliving were, when he came in, they're like, great, Jay Feaster, cleaned out the barns for you, as Brian Burke said. And the idea is get there quickly. As in, absolutely, 100%, 100%. And there's an economic rationale for it, because if you're, you get revenue sharing if you're in the bottom third of the league, and you pay into revenue sharing if you're in the top third of the league. And the idea is the difference between you being in the playoffs and getting home dates and not, if you're the Flames, that's the difference between being a revenue sharing recipient and being a revenue sharing pay-in guy. Or it depends on the exchange rate too. But if you're I know there's not a lot of sympathy towards billionaires, and in a lot of ways there shouldn't be. But
what do you mean? We just spent 6 days looking for him at the bottom of the ocean. If you're
running a business, even if it is a wacky sports organization, to have a sustainable business, you don't want to be losing money, and you don't want to be reliant on the largesse of other teams sending you money. And as much as like the Flames, I think, it was a necessity for them to have currency equalization, and a necessity for them to have, the revenue sharing, and the necessity for the cap. I also think, not just a pride thing, it's just sort of a reality of running a business thing. You don't want to be reliant on other people to run your business for you.
Correct.
And so they want to be in the playoffs every year because it helps their business run in the way they think it should.
Absolutely.
And so that was the big thing towards the building too. I mean, the Saddle Dome is an expensive building to run, and it is less, I think you're less competitive for free agents because it's not as nice as the other buildings. You don't have dedicated space for specific things. You basically have them cramming in stuff wherever they can fit it. And again, the Flame staff does a great job with the space they're allocated, but the footprint is what the footprint is. You can't do much more with what they have. And so out of necessity for the business operations, as necessity for the sustainability of the business, and out of necessity for the sustainability of the hockey club, I think, they needed a new building. And I agree. You can litigate the deal. I don't love the deal. I think they had, there's been better deals in other markets. There's been worse deals. But regardless of you want to think of the deal is what the deal is. Right now, though, I think, the Magnificent Seven, I just think this is a weird time in terms of a lot of bets, a lot of things that the Flames were hoping would break a different way, broke the wrong way all at once. Case in point, in 2016, Brad Treliving had the ability to sign Johnny Gaudreau to a deal that was longer than the deal he signed him to. He didn't. In 2019, they had the ability to sign Matthew Tkachuk to a deal that was longer than 3 years. Granted, they couldn't figure out a way to open up enough cap space to make a long-term deal viable without completely handcuffing themselves cap-wise. Like, they would have had to do dumb, weird things all year to make that contract work. And so they didn't do it. And so for completely understandable reasons, they walk those guys to the summer of 2022, where one guy can walk and one guy says, "I'm out of here."
Yeah.
So those are the cards that they were dealt those cards, but they also played those cards in a way that walked them to the situation. And I would say the exact same thing with this 2024 summer group. And I think a lot of it was deals that they had signed. If you think you have or are going to have Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Tkachuk until the cows come home, when you sign those deals in 2018 for Lindholm and Hanifin, you're not going, "Oh man, we're going to be so screwed in 6 years." You go, "Hot damn, you got some good players for sub $5 million deals, and your analytics guys will not shut up about how well these guys project and how good they're going to be in a few years."
Yep.
And case in point, I'm pretty sure if you go to the Donda Sessions player cards on the Athletic website, or if you go to Evolving Hockey, any place that sort of measures player value, those two guys have been drastically underpaid for their value for the last 3-4 years, which is great. It's great. But those are the kind of things that you do and need to do when you think you have one or two franchise, building block guys to build around. Because let's just say you have a Gaudreau and Tkachuk still around till the cows come home. You reach the summer of 2024 and you go, well, it sucks that they're leaving, but we got this guy and this guy and this guy. It's fine. Yeah. Unfortunately, the bets that they made when they thought that 13 and 19 would be around for a zillion years, they just didn't pan out. I mean, Gaudreau had a kid, and so anyone who has had children will tell you, wherever you think your priority is going to be in your life change dramatically at that point. Your life completely becomes realigned. And Matthew Tkachuk, who's always been a really savvy businessman as much as he's been a savvy hockey player, I think he talked to a couple teams during their RFA period when you can be talked to by teams, and he got romance. I think he didn't know what options were out there, but he was thinking, I'll have some options open. We'll see. Worst case, I can just re-up with the Flames. I know I like it there. And then he got told, actually, you want to come to Florida? Want to come to Carolina? He had all these options available to him that he didn't know he would have, and went, "Oh crap, that sounds much better than Calgary. Let's do that." So, I mean, if I had the choice of making a crap ton of money and living on the beach, as much as I love this town I grew up in, that's tempting.
Ryan, I get that, but I think you'd agree that Ottawa is everybody's screaming for a rebuild around here. Ottawa did the rebuild, right? And they got the good young players. And now DeBrincat wants out. Okay, I get that.
Yeah.
Winnipeg, they rode those guys. Now they want out. They can't keep arguably one of the best goalies in. This is for old guys like me. This is beginning to feel a little familiar again. And I would
it's cyclical, man.
It is cyclical, but on the same point, you got to address it. The only frosty answer I ever had with Brad Treliving, because he was always, what he's like. He's fantastic. But I asked him 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago? When did Oliver Ekman-Larsson go to Vancouver? Was that 2 years ago?
That was 2 years ago.
Yeah. And you remember his agent went on Vancouver radio and said, players don't want to play in Canada because of the media and the attention and the spotlight. And I brought it up to Brad. Boy, it sure feels like, Canada's a tough sell for some places. Now, I probably just signed Coleman or was about to sign Coleman. So, he had every right to thumb his nose at me. But I do feel like, you go listen to Toronto radio yesterday. Yeah. Oh, what's wrong with Calgary? Why don't people like Calgary? Calgary, nobody can't keep anybody. Rhett Warner this morning talking about okay, they got rid of Daryl. Now what? These people, they're still leaving. There's something going on here. And I'm not saying you need to address it. I'm not saying we need to go out and legislate it or anything like that. But I do believe it's incumbent on this franchise, on Winnipeg, on Ottawa, just opening your doors and saying we're an NHL team ain't good enough anymore. You've got to your point, romance the hell out of these players and want them to stay.
And I think, I mentioned this on socials the other day. So the cap is going to keep going up. It's a $1 million bump for next season, and then 4-ish the year after that, and 4-ish the year after that. So it's going to go up to somewhere around 92 million by 2025. So the Flames' new building probably opens 2026-ish, maybe 2027, depending on stuff. So, if you're the Flames, I mean, if all these guys leave or some of these guys leave, it'll suck. I mean, these are, a lot of these guys are homegrown players or players that have spent a good chunk of time with this organization.
Yep.
But I think the cool thing is, and as you know, you don't want to, this is me being Mr. Silver Lining. You have the Flames, at least even for 2024, have like a crap ton. They have basically half the cap open. They have half the cap open. They have some young players who are on their way in who could have a chance to establish themselves. And the exciting thing is, I know Pinder's been mentioning a lot in Barn Burner. When the New York Islanders knew that they were going to have the Belmont Arena, like UBS Arena, coming up, they sort of engaged. They didn't even call it a rebuild. They were just sort of, they were of the mindset of, okay, maybe we're not going to be great for a couple of years, but, from a business standpoint, you're asking your season ticket holders, I don't know if they had many in Long Island because they had to move around so damn much. But you're asking your Islanders fans at that point, hey guys, we got a new building coming in. Prices will be a little bit more, but the team's gonna be better. And here's, you're sort of selling the fans as much as you're selling other players. You're building a program that people sort of want to be a part of. I don't know if you heard it, but like Paul Maurice did this fantastic interview with
You'll have to be more specific than that.
He's done a lot of them, but Paul Maurice did this great interview with an ABC affiliate, I believe in Florida, discussing about how, his disclosure, Paul Maurice's son is a broadcaster. And so Paul Maurice has been, he spoke very eloquently in a few different places, the idea that, he approaches dealing with us media types differently because of what he knows about what his son needs to get out of those interactions.
Not a delicate genius.
Oh, he's fantastic. I have a lot of time for Paul Maurice.
Me too.
But just the idea, the thing that really resonated with me is the idea that the game belongs to everyone. Everyone owns a different piece of the game. And so like say, what we need from the team, what we bring and we own is different than the piece the fans do, the players do, the management does, and so on and so forth. And I think the exciting thing for me is the idea that, okay, so there's a new building coming in 2026 or 2027 here. And so the idea is, how do you engage the players who are on your team now and make them feel like they own a part of it? How do you engage the community members here who may or may not be fans of the team to feel like they own a part of it? And how do you engage the fans that are a part of the team? Because the fans who are the part of the team, like, for better or for worse, it's going to become a little bit more expensive to be a Flames fan when that building opens. So how do you make people feel like they're getting something of value for what they're bringing to the table, for what the part of the game that they own, that they engage with? And so if you're the Flames, you have a really cool chance now with a new GM and a new coach and potentially a pretty significant changeover of players the last 2 or 3 seasons and potentially continuing on for next season. You have an opportunity to sort of build a program, build a, something that you feel that is good. It's something that brings some value and something that people want to be a part of, whether they want to be a part of it as players or as fans or as whatever.
No, that's culture.
Yeah. And I think there's been a very well-defined, for better or for worse, idea of what the Flames are in the community and what the team culture is. And I think a lot of it dates back to Daryl Sutter back in, coming in 2002 and really putting a stamp on the team. And I think to various degrees, it's sort of been variations on Daryl Sutter hockey in Calgary for the last 2 decades, which is all well and good. They had, when in year 2 of a program, you have 4 playoff rounds. Yeah, that's a good program. And I think they've taken it fairly far. So the question is, now that you have this chance to do this sort of strategic reset organizationally, potentially, what do you want to do with it? What do you want your team to be? What do you want your team to look like, to represent? And how do you want them to play? And, the game has changed in the last 20 years. And, in a lot of ways, I thought
changed in the last 10 years and the last 5 years.
I just remember, you and I probably both remember, for all his strengths as a coach and as a manager at times, I think Daryl Sutter was sort of Don Quixote in
he's tilting windmills all the time. Absolutely was.
Yeah, just trying, hoping against hope, trying against hope to recreate the magic of that 2004 group.
Yep.
And okay, you probably can't do that.
No.
So okay, what are you trying to create? What are you trying to work towards? And if you know what you're working towards, if you have a plan or you have a high level sketch for here's what we want to accomplish. Like say, okay, they brought in Mark Savard and Dan Lambert for the bench. Okay. How does that fit in the puzzle they're trying to build? what is the bigger picture? But these two little pieces here that seem, all due respect to the guys, but I don't think, in the grand scheme of things, your two assistant coaches are not the most monumental moves they'll probably make this offseason. They're important, but compared to the coach, compared to the GM, compared to potentially Jerome McGinley, compared to the 7 guys that they had to figure out what to do with, it's not quite as big, but it's important. And so where do these guys fit in the puzzle? That's to me, that's the fascinating thing. I'm really excited to sort of have some time to chat with those guys, because the idea of, they brought in these guys. Here's the weird thing. Do you know how many games of NHL coaching experience, NHL head coaching experience they have on their entire coaching staff right now? 2.
Oh, right.
Ryan Huska was an interim coach in 2021.
That was a trick question.
But all the guys, like, you usually see, like, first-time head coach, we're going to bring in an experienced veteran head coach or associate coach. Nope, they brought in, they don't have no associate coach. They have 3 assistants, and one of them is the guy from one of them is a holdover from last year. One of them's a guy who spent 1 year on an NHL bench and then spent a couple years in the OHL. That's it. But he was a very good hockey player when he played. One guy, in Dan Lambert, is a very smart player. He ran a really good power play in Nashville until the wheels kind of fell off the wagon a bit in his last year there. But he's coached, a lot in the Western League, the American League. He sort of bounced around a bit, but he's sort of touched a lot of different things in a lot of different places. So just the idea, like, they're bringing out so many, like, just different people, different types of people, that I'm just, I'm fascinated to see how it all fits in.
I get it. And I'm like you. I think when we saw Craig came, but you have to allow from up top. You have to allow from up top change, right? You have to allow from up top. You cannot be going to this group and saying, well, this is not how we do it. Because what you have been doing is mucking around in the middle. What you need to do is, to your point, is create a culture. I say this all the time, and I take zero pleasure in this, Ryan. Zero pleasure. But it sometimes feels like around here, because of the transient nature of this city, that Flames fans have 2 jerseys: their Flames jersey and their favorite team's jersey. And that's because of where they came from or where they grew up or who they cheer for.
The running joke was, whenever I tell people I was born in Calgary, people are like, man, there's like 3 or 4 of you and you always hang out.
Well, we always pulled Pat's leg about that. And I, having worked in the Edmonton market, say what you will about the Oilers, but they've done a nice job of cultivating this bunker mentality. And
it's a religion up there.
I bring this story up when they lost to Carolina in 06. They lost in 7. When they lost, you remember the forecasters. Everybody put out the forecasters. Well, that season went long, and a month and a half later, the Score put out their forecaster, and the Score had the audacity to pick the Oilers to miss the playoffs. Journal, Sun, headline: Score picks Oilers, and that was it. Everybody in that city was fired. How dare they? It's a bunker mentality. We'll criticize the team. You don't get to criticize the team. Here, there are passionate fans, but they're diluted. Again, you need to do something to get into the rinks, and that's where I think the foundation and the alumni do such great work. They get out there, the junior Flames program that they do with the Hockey Calgary and the first shift program. Kids that are playing hockey for the first time get to work with the alumni. That's how you establish fans. The programming that Candace oversees, that's how you establish fans. But you got to do more than that. You've got to do more than that. And that's the culture part that I'm curious about. And I think Conroy's the right guy for it, because I think he's a builder and I think he brings people together. Yeah. But I'll dovetail it all the way back to here. You're exactly right. Okay. If you're going to move Lindholm today, where are you going to be in 3 years? If you're keeping Lindholm, where are you going to be in 3 years? And then everything branches out from there.
Yeah. And especially like the idea, I'll say this. I think for how challenging it's been to be a fan of this team over the years, like we've had teams, call a spade. They struggled for economic reasons. They simply couldn't afford to compete economically with some of the other teams, but it was challenging to be a fan of the Flames at points of its history. And I think it's become easier, but I think, when they were getting outspent, 3-1, 4-1 by American teams, you could go to the game and watch the Flames lose, or whether they might win, but they didn't win a lot, and you could go, well, stacked against them, what you can do. Like, there is sort of a aw shucks kind of mentality, because like they were Charlie Brown because the system was built for them to be Charlie Brown, and so you could at least wrap your head around and be like, okay, it's not really their fault. Yep. But if they're now, when everyone's theoretically on a level playing field, it's okay, what are you doing with your cap space? Okay, what's your plan organizationally? And I think I'll say this, having done the mailbag on the website and having written in this market and lived on social media for the better part of my adult life, for better or for worse, I don't know why I chose to do this, but Flames fans, by and large, are pretty damn smart. They understand, they get it. And so I think if you could just tell them, like say in that 13-14 year, the team was not good. But the team was not good on purpose. And they simply went, hey, we traded Jarome Iginla, and they
broadcasting those games.
They never used the rebuild word, but
2 shots in the first period against Columbus one time. What am I supposed to do with that?
Talk about the cannon.
You know what? I had that coming. That goes all the way back to the last show and the domino thing. I had that coming. Good on you, sir. Good on you.
The gun went off.
It was in Columbus.
Everyone's afraid of a cannon, though.
It was here, though.
Okay,
I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that. Charlie and I looked at each other and go, how do we do this? Like, how? What are we doing?
If you're like, I mean, as a broadcaster, it's challenging. As a writer, it's challenging. But if you're a fan of the team and they say to you, hey, Rob, here's the deal. Yeah. Like, we traded Jarome, Mika retired, we traded Bouwmeester, we're gonna bring in some kids. It might be a little bit lean for a year and a bit, but like, we got a plan. Just hang with us for a couple of years. For the most part, I thought the fan reaction to that 13 to 16 period, or 13 to 15, when they finally, when they had the miracle run, I thought fans were like, okay,
but they were lulled into a false sense of it's going to be a rebuild, and then the find a way Flames happened, and that screwed everything up.
I still stand by my point of when we, the legacy of Jay Feaster is improved drafting and the phrase intellectual honesty. And you got to, they were a team that was lucky as all get out, that had they ran on hot goaltending and everyone in the world having a 20% shooting percentage all at once. And then the next year they were simply an average team. They were what they probably were the whole time.
That's right.
And but if you look at the trajectory of the team under Brad Treliving, generally speaking, they got better and their luck sort of evened out, but they became a consistently better team. So, okay. So you're starting off at this area. If you need to drop down to here, explain why and explain from here, what's the plan? Are you going is your plan to go down to here and be a little bit worse and then get better? Or I still think if you're, as much as it's not an amazing business strategy, and my livelihood, my job does not depend on selling Flames tickets. So like, everyone involved on the business side has my sympathies, because it's a very challenging job at the best of times. And I can't imagine what it'd be like in a rebuild. But I think if you sell a plan and say, this is the plan over the next 4 years, and by the time the new building opens, hot damn, we're going to be gangbusters, versus just, oh yeah, it looks like they're muddling around and they're just bad. I mean, people do not want to support a bad team. People, historically speaking, in this market, people will support a team with a plan. And if you're at the bottom part of that plan, as long as they know what the point of the bottom is relative to the rest of the plan, history says here that they'll probably stick around.
So 2 things that jump out at me. One is the Rangers letter. The letter that they read, was it 3 years ago they wrote the letter?
Yeah, I believe so. A few teams have done that.
Yeah. But there's 2 types of letters. And I'm absolutely 100% against apology letters. Oh, we shouldn't have missed the playoffs. We're sorry. We'll try harder next year. That bullshit. Oh, sorry, Ty, I did it again. But the letter that I'm talking about is the one that they wrote, and they said, look, we know what you demand. This is exactly what you just said. Outline it. This is what the next 2 years are going to look like. The Houston Astros did it, right? Yeah. The Houston Astros said, right now, am I advocating for Craig Conroy and Ryan Huska to cheat? Yes, I am. No, I'm not. But that's the letter I would write if I was going to write a letter. But please do not write a letter. Oh, we're sorry we lost. I hate that letter. That's a dumb letter.
Yeah, like right now, like we talked about, you and I in the past about the idea of a sports franchise being sort of a public trust.
Yes.
And so, okay, like I think there's a lot of goodwill right now towards Craig Conroy, towards Ryan Huska, towards the organization, because, like I think there's a general acknowledgement of, okay, things didn't go well and changes have been made. And it sounds like changes probably will continue to be made, one way or the other. Okay, good. So yeah, you have that opportunity to sort of be like, if you're thinking that there's going to be some bumpy roads, tell us why. And tell us where those roads are going. How many long ass road trips have you've been on and I've been on, where it's like, you're thinking, oh God, where the hell are we? Like, if you go on a road trip, if I'm on a long plane ride, you don't tell me where the hell we're going and why it's worth it, I'm going to be cranky. If you tell me, like, during the All-Star break, I took a 7-hour plane ride to Hawaii, but it was uncomfortable and I was kind of cranky because it was a 7-hour plane ride. And those, sitting in an economy for 7 hours ain't fun. Nope. But at the end, I was like, okay, so the plan was, well, you're uncomfortable, but after you're uncomfortable, you're in Hawaii. Great. That's a trade-off I'm okay with. As long as I know the trade-offs I'm making, I can be okay with it.
Except, though, that part you just said a couple minutes ago, where, God bless, you don't have to sell tickets for this team. The business component is the magic elixir in all of this, because you're right. If you say, this is where we're going, it's going to be a 7-hour flight. You know what? I'm going to come back when you get there. This is cool. Love it. Think it's great. I'm just going to save my shekels. And when you get to Hawaii, I'll just come join you there. And that's always the fear. And the other part is just the absolute bonanza, which playoffs are. They are absolutely a bonanza, right? And you can do, and it's that Peter Marr talks about it, that, well, get in and you never know sort of thing. There, as far as, I feel a little hypocritical, or somewhat a lot hypocritical, about saying this team never takes chances. In many ways it does. It's like, let's just get a chance. Let's just take the chance to see if we can get in and go on a run, right? Or, maybe we're taking a chance and we're going to leave our plan because we have found a way to win all these games with high shooting percentages and everything like that. Maybe the real, the real challenge there was sticking with the plan. I don't know. That was the safe thing, was to stick with the plan. I do know that. Hey, can I, before I let you go, I just want to ask you about the R word. I'm not sure you and I have ever had this conversation, and I am opening an absolute can of worms. But, yeah, here you go. In your opinion, how many current or recent first-time burn it to the ground rebuilds have paid off? And I'll preface that by saying, I think the Los Angeles Kings have rebuilt it a couple of times. I think the Edmonton Oilers rebuilt it a couple of times.
I say Tampa, because they were quite bad, but they also seemed like they had a good plan for, here's what we're doing.
That was like 7, 8, 10, 9, 10 in that range, right?
Yeah.
So that paid off a decade later. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, they were good. Like, they were only bad for like 2 or 3 seasons, and then they were pretty good, and then they kept building.
That's right.
Pretty good. But I think that's where the challenge is, because like, there's plenty of teams, like the stage from being mediocre to awful, easy. You just sell everything. Like, you just go full Chicago. Like, it's super easy to be really bad.
Yep.
The other direction is the hard part. And like, it's easy to get to the mushy middle. I mean,
yes, but
getting above that mushy middle and being like I'll say this, Tampa burnt it to the ground, and they built up a culture. They built up a plan. And so when they swapped out GMs, you hardly noticed it, because they operated sort of the same way. They brought in the same type of players. And, you can love or hate the way they choose to do business, because they're really creative with the cap, almost to a fault. They're really aggressive, almost to a fault. Their entire drafting and development model is based on, finding good players in free agency and plugging them into your system, finding good players in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th rounds of the draft, because they trade all the other picks, Darryl Sutter style, in order to backfill the roster. I mean, they believe in their team. They believe in their ability of their guys to find good players, their scouts to find good players in all rounds of the draft. And they believe in their ability to get college and European free agents to sign there, because we're Tampa Bay and you'll have a chance to get a ring. And it works. It's like the idea of, in Edmonton, you're going to get players that other markets won't get in Canada or elsewhere because of the allure of playing on the same team as Connor McDavid.
Yes.
100%. And, I think a lot of teams, there's that allure. Toronto gets players that are, Mark Giordano is playing for Toronto for pennies on the dollar because he wants to play close to home. It's Toronto. It's a market that matters. And Tampa's built themselves into a market that matters. Carolina has done a really nice job over the last 2 years, especially since Tom Dundon arrived, at building themselves into being a market that matters. And, I think, I'd call Carolina a qualified success because they haven't really gotten to where they want to go yet, but you can sort of see the plan and the trajectory and how they've built that team. LA, to a certain extent, I think LA is still early in their process relative to the other teams.
Yeah, but they've done it before. Like they've had multiple starts at this, right?
And with the same ownership too. And I think that's the key thing where, like, the Angelos family is completely on board with, like, if Rob Blake comes to you and says, okay, remember that thing we did last time? Remember those parades we have? Okay, we're going to do it again. But for the first couple of years, it might kind of suck, and, Anaheim's sort of doing that too. And Anaheim in some ways has sort of gone to that perpetual quasi rebuild. And maybe that's why they haven't really had the success LA had, because I think LA sort of had the gumption to be like, let's just be like bad with a capital B for a little bit and it'll pay off. And it's worked out for them. So I think, it's challenging because, again, if we're not signing the checks, it's easy for us to go, man, you know what they should do? Sure. Here's what they should do.
Yep.
But it takes a certain amount of a gumption, for lack of a better term, to say, okay, I know I sold ownership on a vision, but here's my plan now, and here's what I want to do, and please don't fire me.
Well, I'm not firing you. You've been doing yeoman work. Tell me a little bit about next week in Nashville, your plans.
Oh, boy. I'm a bunch of us from the network are heading down. Chris Faber from Canucks Army, myself, a bunch of people from Daily Faceoff, including our buddy Stephen Ellis, Matt Larkin, Frank Seravalli. So we're going to be all over it. The Barn to Burn boys are going down too. So if we can steer them away from certain parts of Nashville, they'll get some work done. But it's going to be a fun week. Monday is the awards with Michael Backlund up for the King Clancy Award. Tuesday, GM meetings where goodness knows what's going to come of it, because we believe we have the cap number figured out. And then Wednesday, Thursday is the draft. Friday is the end of the buyout period. It's the qualifying offer deadline. And then by the time by midday on Saturday, all hell breaks loose at free agency. So, it's been a busy few days with Flames and NHL related news. And,
really?
I think it's going to only accelerate over the next few days, but we have a lot of cool historical pieces to sort of tee up the NHL draft, sort of showing what the Flames have done in previous years, what has worked and what hasn't, and then a whole bunch of player profiles, and hopefully we manage to profile the guy that they end up picking, because this is the kind of draft where it's beautiful chaos after about 10 or 11, and the person that you have at 12th overall could go 26th, or they could go 12th. And it's hard to say which direction they'll go.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Jankowski.
Hey,
right?
Hey, he
in the sense of
through a snowstorm.
Yeah, no, but you know what I'm saying? Like, that was a draft. Like that Pittsburgh draft.
That 2012 draft just was not very good in general, though.
No,
you look at that first round. Everyone had a different list, and I don't think anyone's list was right.
I don't think the first overall pick from that league was that Yakupov.
Yeah, that was fail for nail.
Fail for nail. All right, dude. We will follow you. Thanks again. I apologize for yelling at you. I wasn't really directed at you, but you got the brunt of it there when you came on, so I appreciate that.
It was good. But it was good listening.
It was good something. Thanks, pal.
See you, bud.
There you go. He is Ryan Pike, managing editor of Flames Nation. Of course, all of our guests are brought to you by Ski Cellar Snowboard, skicellersnowboard.com. Reminder, we are live in the Oodle Noodle studio. We're just crazy about noodles. We put the same energy back into the community. 2 locations in Calgary and area. One's out in Airdrie, 105 Main Street North, and one just down the hill from here, 1244 17th Avenue Southwest. Pick up and delivery. Well, why would we wait? We shan't. We won't. We will move on and bring in our next guest, courtesy of our good friends at Ski Cellar Snowboard, skicellersnowboard.com. 76 years. And it's amazing. And now they have 4 stores in the winter, but one right now, McLeod and Chinook. So check them out. Very pleased to have joined us front of the program. And apparently part of a email chain that I wasn't on, because I guess we were all supposed to wear our Cardinals gear today.
I see that.
Hey, you notice that?
I see
Did you see that? Yeah.
I can't hear myself.
I didn't know.
It's tripping me out. I can't hear myself.
I can hear you.
That's weird. Oh, well, I guess we'll battle through, but it's fine.
Wow.
Just not used to
this
it.
is now people won't know this. They're going to go, well, that's the first time Will's complained. Will Nault, by the way, is our guest. It's actually the second.
No one has ever said that.
Wow.
They'll say, wow,
he complains the first time
a lot.
Well, yeah, because you already texted me to complain.
Oh, yeah.
Because of what?
That's what you're going to tell right now? The story of me complaining about?
No, the story that I was going to tell. Yeah, actually was. Yeah.
Okay.
Come to think of it, it was. Will Nault, kind enough to join us. Again, habitual social media presence, and he has some opinions.
Stunning.
Yeah.
It's been quiet. I don't know why you're having me on, but
what do you mean it's been quiet? Yeah. Well, we're just killing time, really, to the next show.
Till next Thursday, I guess.
I guess so. Oh, it's a podcast. We don't have to kill time anymore. Where do you want to start? I mean, the world is your oyster, sir.
I just saw news. Like, I'm going to shift gears completely on you, but I just saw that Bo Levi was transferred to the 6th game. So I just
was he?
Yeah. Just wanted to throw out some.
So he's going to miss.
Well wishes to him.
He's going to miss that game here in. No. He won't miss that game.
That's okay. That's next year.
Boy, it's been an uneven start, hasn't it?
Been a little rocky. I think the only team that's probably happy is the one to the province west.
Yeah. BC's look good.
Oof, they looked really good last night.
Right.
And no one's made Winnipeg look like that in a long time.
Yeah.
Especially at home.
Yeah, I don't think that helps.
Or Zach Caleros,
I was going to say, I don't think that helps the rest of the league, does it? No. You wake up the sleeping giant. My only problem, and I don't know if you remember this, is I don't take BC seriously until the postseason, because I remember the year they went 11-0 to start, and then we're just a train wreck to finish, right? But hey, give Vernon Adams credit. Like, those are big shoes to fill for a rookie quarterback who was Canadian and all this great stuff. Those are big shoes of Rourke's to fill.
Yeah. And I mean, ownership's come in there and made a huge footprint in their community as well. I think that should not go unnoticed, but Vernon Adams is finally getting, that opportunity.
It hasn't gone unnoticed, but is it sustainable?
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Cause it seems like, to your point about the 11-0, it seems like, okay, June, July, it's pretty hot. And then as
but
summer
how many
goes on, the attendance starts to drop again. And
the concert part is the interesting part to me. Is those things are not cheap.
No.
And you can tell me all you want about, well, it's just LL Cool J. It's not cheap, right? And you have to sink some hard-earned money into that. And we've had a conversation, you and I don't know how many years in a row, we talked about the viability of the league and the younger market and everything. I'm hearing. It's funny how the mighty have fallen, right? I'm hearing good things about tomorrow. It might be as much as 25. You and I were working together not that long ago when that game, Saskatchewan in town, would be 32, right? That's the part that scares me. And I'm not 100% sure bringing out 90s acts to Calgary, and that's a slight against LL, but you know what I'm saying? I'm not sure if you bring out.
Hey, the Riders brought out Kim Mitchell, right? Come on.
Well, that's a Canadian legend.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But I'm not 100 trooper, everybody. I'm not 100% sure that's going to scratch the itch either, right? And I don't know. I guess I'm reverting back to my original when I got into the business days. Like, I'm almost pulling punches on the league, but this whole stats thing, and I don't know if people are in tune with this. That can't happen.
No,
that's inexcusable.
And for your commissioner to come out and say this is not a failure, it's 100% a failure. You had 200 days from the last end of the Grey Cup last year till your season kicking off.
Yeah, I know.
200 days.
Yeah.
And you're saying it might be ready in July.
Yeah.
It might. You're not even making guarantees at this point. Yeah, it's a disaster, but we'll see. We'll see how.
See, I like him.
I do, but he just.
Yeah, I know. He just seems to get in his own way.
100%.
Right.
Just quickly, and then we'll move on. John Bender asked me this question, and I love the question.
All right.
You can't renovate, or you can't build a new one.
Yeah.
How do you get more people to McMahon?
You have to renovate it. And I think I saw it 2 or 3 years ago, or maybe it's not that long ago, some plan of wiping out one side and rebuilding one side.
Similar to Ottawa.
Yeah, that exactly. And then, building up around it and things like that. it's so close to the university. Have you seen this stuff? I apologize. I don't know what they call it, but on the west side, as you go towards the Children's Hospital, that new district.
Yeah, University District.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know what they call it. It's by the university, that new district. University District.
Yeah. 2 words. Come together.
Yeah, there you go. It's if you could have something like that, right?
100%.
Some kind of district.
And I know there's some, and like you said, I don't know if there's official plans out there, but there was some sort of plan out there about
renovating that space
and tearing down Burn Stadium and doing everything around there and kind of making your track and field.
Well, isn't that where the field house is going though?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Or is it going over the track? I don't know. The existing track.
Yeah, I don't know. But I feel bad about it because I made the joke that the election, which it turned out was not even close. It was supposed to be an election about the arena. It was not. But if I was Notley, I would have come out and said, not only am I voting for the arena, I'm building a football stadium. That's how I would have countered it. Didn't need to, but it's so quiet. Nobody ever talks about that. The last time there was any legitimate talk about, a new football stadium was Calgary Next.
And then as soon as that project died, so did that conversation.
Yeah. And I feel like in a way that it's kind of been, it's the story we don't talk about because I think it feels like a death march in a way. And I don't want it to be, but it feels like a death march. Yeah. Right. 100%. I yelled and screamed and made quite a fuss. What
were you so upset about?
Really, really, really angry about the NHL not allowing the warm-up jerseys next year as a direct result of one group. And to me, and you can push back as much as you want, but you heard me say this before. I don't think the NHL did it out of hate. They did it out of taking care of their players. They did it out of baby. They're delicate geniuses. They need to wrap them in bubble wrap. We can't. This is inconvenient to them. Yeah. We can't have Eric Stahl have to answer these questions. They're mean. And as a result, you have given ammunition to haters and hate groups and said, well, that group does, the LGBTQT community doesn't deserve the same respect as everybody else. The NHL said so. That's the part that bothers me. And the other part that bothers me, well, you and I both know people personally who have busted their asses to do projects like this and promote projects like this at the league level, at the club level, all of these things. And we know there's players.
Well, and you've been involved in those processes, right? Yeah. You know how much goes into that.
I do. And I find it personally offensive. And
because it's almost like a slap across the face saying anything that you've done in the past, we don't really care.
Right. And so I'm really angry about that.
I don't know if I've seen this talked a lot about so far on this topic specifically. And I'm curious where you stand on it, because you've definitely dipped your toes in both pools, but how much of this do you think is corporate involved in terms of, was there any conversations from sponsors? And I only bring that up because we've seen the negative backlash on Bud Light. And I do wonder if there's companies that have said, you know what?
Yeah,
we don't want is it better if we just completely scrap it? I wonder, the only reason I bring it up is because of the Bud Light and because I haven't seen anything of it. And some of the big league sponsors, I wonder how much of that conversation went on behind closed
Well, because
doors.
It was not a release. The NHL never came out.
With any studies or anything.
No. They just, we found out after the Board of Governors meetings that it won't happen again. To me, I go back to, it was kind of the predictable move that the league would make. Oh my God, this is hard. We won't do this anymore.
We have to answer questions.
And what I have read is that there was a lot of concern about the players, didn't feel it was fair that they had to go through this and it was hard on them. So it's a fair point because you have watched Bud Light, go through this. I'd like to believe that there are more sponsors that would take up the cause. But until we are told exactly the reasoning, we are left with, they're not doing it anymore. It's like, I've been around this team for the league for 20 plus years. I don't remember a Hockey Fights Cancer year that didn't involve a jersey. And as a result of this, you're going to pull that initiative
or military appreciation.
I know how hard Treaty 7, worked with CSEC to get that, the First Nations jersey. It's just,
Black History Month too.
Well,
There's a Flames had a jersey this year for that.
Based on Jerome McGinley, his history. We had Dr. Tyler White on the show on Wednesday, and he was talking about how important this was. And here we are. This week was Juneteenth. How important these things are. I'm frustrated, Will. I'm frustrated. It's an unnecessary gunshot wound that they didn't need to do. And they could have sent a loud message. They chose not to. They chose to take the coward's way out.
I think you've said it perfectly. Okay. I don't know if I can add a ton more. I think I've had a lot of similar thoughts to you in that whole thing. And I brought up the corporate part because I do wonder if that's a conversation, but I also know that the player side of it was big too. And I think,
and I'm not mad. I love Peter Hanlon and I love Sean Kelso and those guys. And I love, I got a good friend, Brandon, who's working in San Jose. And this is not me running at media people at all, but the players are just way too protected now. And they're treated like delicate geniuses, and they're not allowed. You can't do this with them. You can't do that with. It's a game day. Oh my God. They might shrivel up and blow away. I don't know what the hell they're worried about, but it grinds my gears a little bit that I truly believe, whether people want to accept this or not. It's funny. When I put my stuff out on social yesterday, I got a lot of feedback, a little bit of negative, but not much. But the negative feedback is all, oh, what did you hear about this? Did you hear about that? Okay. Well, you heard the stories about the kids who are trying to figure out who and what they are in the world. And something like this allows them to understand and express themselves. But nope, now we got to go hide again. Yeah. Those are the kids I'm worried about. Those are the stories that I'm worried about. This one has real life implications, and it's disheartening. Okay. I've said my piece. I've yelled about it. Rebuild. The floor is yours. No. Interesting day yesterday. Do you remember a day like that? And
not with one team. I remember days with, we've had big names come in, subsequent hours with different teams, but it's never kind of been bang, 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 all from the same team.
Right. And I kind of feel like everybody's vilifying Frank a bit because Frank seemed to be the guy that it
Why?
All came
Because he's
from.
Right? Because he's reporting the news?
Is he right?
Well, he's reporting the news. I saw a lot of people, and this is why I get frustrated, because I saw a lot of people yesterday hammering Frank for saying Lindholm's leaving. He never said Lindholm's leaving. Go read the tweet again. He never said he's leaving.
No. But,
so I'd love for people to show me where he said he's leaving. He never said that.
No.
He said he's weighing the decision and leaning towards a no.
But have you ever heard me say this? Social media doesn't allow for context.
No, it does not.
Right? It just doesn't allow for context.
And it's funny because, and I put this out there yesterday. I don't know if you saw it, but it's the time of the year where I think a lot of people, rightly or wrongly, and sometimes it ends up being true, but a lot of people will go out there and say, hey, if you're a diehard fan, or even if you're a media member, and you say, I don't believe that report because I don't like it. And it's like, well, okay, it's that time of the year where, some things might get said about your favorite player, your favorite team, and you might not like it, but that's the reality of it. And so that's where sometimes I had an issue with some of the attacking on reporters because they're just reporting the news. Yeah. And so they're just doing their job.
Yeah.
That's all.
It was interesting the way everything unfolded. Like, today, Elliot, yesterday, Michael Backlund's not staying. Today, he's been offered the captaincy. There's just, they are, and I speak of the Flames now, are absolutely ripe for this. They are absolutely ripe for this. New GM, new coach, 7 identifiable players that, they can't make the same mistake as last year. Last year happened, so everybody's kind of focused on you. They didn't make the playoffs. They underachieved, all of these sort of things. They are absolutely in this quagmire. And then, I don't know, I might be too picky about this, but is there a picture of Mitch Love smiling? Because there were so he signed in Washington. Good on him. That's exactly what he needs to do, or stay. Sorry, but if you really want to be a head coach, then stay and be a head coach. But if you need to get to the NHL, he did exactly what he needs to do. And why would he go to the team that said, no, we're taking him? How many of us would do that?
Yeah.
Right?
True.
How many?
Can't fault him.
No. But the same picture, the poor guy, he looked
I was laughing because
all the time.
Everybody in the Capitals tweet when they said Mitch Love hired and they put that photo of him.
Yeah.
Every one of their fans is like, oh, our entire coaching staff next year is bald. Perfect. It's just, we're going to have a bald coaching staff next year. So,
yeah, it's not what came to my mind, but yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. Every photo of Mitch Love looks very angry, but
he does. He's got a smile somewhere.
He's got that mean mug.
Yeah. We haven't even mentioned this today, but Mark Savard, Dan Lambert, Cale McLean, Jason LaBarbera. There's your coaching staff.
And Pringle.
And
Chips.
Yeah. Jamie, I forgot you. Sorry, pal.
Well,
I didn't
been there for so long.
But he's listening right now, and I feel terrible.
Oh, is he?
Like a redo. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I
feel like I
want to
restart. Fast forward.
So Savard, Lambert, Cale McLean.
Take 3. Third time's a charm.
Lambert, Savard, McLean, LaBarbera, Pringle. There's your coaching staff.
Nailed it.
Okay.
You're welcome, Chips.
Not a lot of head coaching NHL experience in there. Is that okay? Because how we added the president of hockey operations? Oh, we have a GM. Oh, no. Now we have a president of hockey operations and a GM. That was the other thing. We hired a head coach. Oh, but we've got an associate coach. You mean an assistant? Oh, no, he's an associate head coach.
With 0 experience.
Well, there's no associate coach here.
Oh, I thought Savard was. My mistake. You might not.
Jack, can you fact check that for me?
What am I fact checking?
There's one show going on.
What are
Jack.
you listening to over there?
Jack,
what are you doing?
I'm just reading these.
What's on your screen, Jack? We should play the game. What's on your screen, Jack? Huh?
No. Can you?
We
just
shouldn't play that game.
Is
Savard, is there an assistant coach?
Savard assistant or associate?
Assistant, isn't he?
Okay, there we go.
No, I asked a fact check, and I didn't ask you to make a guess.
I think it is assistant.
I think it is assistant too.
But you're right. I don't know if I have a huge issue with that. I think only because Huska has been around the last little bit around some pretty experienced head coaches. So I don't know if it's a necessity. He's worked with Lambert a lot before. Lambert spent some significant time in the NHL. So I don't know if it's a huge X or a red flag.
I'm not worried about it at all. I'm not worried about the GM. I'm not worried about the coach. I'm beginning to worry about Jack a little bit over there. You all right?
Yeah, mic's off.
Okay.
Continue.
No, the mic's on now. Right now it's off. Okay. And to me, it's exactly how much of a fresh start is this going to be?
Mm-hmm.
But
you got to find that balance, because I also don't know if you can go 95% youth. You're going to have to, bring some veterans in. You're going to have to. We're not going to say this about a Flames team ever. I was going to say get to the salary cap floor, but that's not going to be a problem. But you're going to have to, I think, and you're still going to have Huberdeau and Kadri. I don't think those guys are going anywhere. Certainly not this season.
That's why I don't think you can call this a rebuild. And I'm sorry, I'm not calling it a rebuild.
No.
I am still of the opinion that Lindholm will come here. And if Lindholm comes here, I think Backlund comes here. I think Hanifin, yeah, I get that. Toffoli, I guess if it was that Daryl Sutter versus the room and Toffoli's a Sutter guy, I guess I get that.
Except that he wasn't.
I thought he was.
I think all rumors lead you to believe that he wasn't.
Oh.
But I could be wrong on that.
So and I don't want to get into rumors. We told we'll see, but I said it to Ryan earlier. I mean, to me, the whole linchpin in all of this is Lindholm, and that's because of the position and
yeah.
And I know you're going to probably take me here, so I'll go there on my own. But it's going to take 8 years. And are you prepared to tie up? Oh, who knows what 8 years from now? Maybe $8 million, $8.5 million might be middle of the pack. Yeah, it might be middle of the pack. But are you prepared to lock him up for that long?
I'm not. And the reason why I say I'm not, I love Lindholm. I think he's a great player, but you've got enough guys in their 30s locked up with big dough. I don't know if you need another one in his 30s. He's going to be 29 in December. Is his best years behind him? Are you going to get a 40-goal season when he's 32?
Well, let's stop right there. So if you have those players, you're talking about Huberdeau and Weegar and Kadri.
I was talking, more on the forward group. So you've got Huberdeau and Kadri already locked well into the 30s at big money.
And same with Weegar.
Yeah.
Right. Are you better off not to win now? As soon as you say win now, I can only imagine that the comments and the tweets that'll come in. What do you mean win now? I mean, continue to try and piece a team together. Look, everything has been said. Nobody watched this team this year and goes, man, they gave it a great effort. Better luck next. They're just not good enough. It's the opposite. They underachieve.
Yeah.
If the goalie is good again, if Wolf comes in and is Wolf for what we think Wolf is going to be, if the kids play and they could be a playoff team. I'm not a deep run team, but a playoff team. I just, if you're keeping Lindholm, I think you better try to be a playoff team. If you're not, I think it becomes a really interesting question. Are you going after assets, or are you, to your point, okay, well, we're losing Lindholm, so we got to try and get another center. We can't get a 1, but maybe we can get a 2.
Yeah, I wonder what they do in terms of that, because you're right. I think the ownership is personally, I don't think ownership will ever give the message that they want to do anything other than compete for playoffs and compete for championships. There's just never been their MO.
Yep.
So even if, for example, all 4 of those guys who've been in the news, and we're talking Hanifin, Toffoli, and the 2 forwards, Backlund and Lindholm, if they all leave, I honestly don't think it's going to be a rebuild. I think we're going to see those guys replaced with similar type players. It's just the way this franchise has always operated. And
okay, I agree with you, by the way.
Yeah. And for me, like, I just think if you look at it right now, if you're to sign Lindholm, like, just look at your team. Okay, the next 5-6 years and the playoffs, the way that they're structured in the league, are you going to be better than Vegas and Edmonton's over the next 5 years with the core that you have right now? I know last year they underachieved. But do you think your group is good enough in a 7-game series to beat those two?
Which Edmonton? To beat the Edmonton that should be, or the Edmonton that
Edmonton that they should be? Because they're going to be better, and they're going to try and
do we?
Well, they're going to try. They've got to.
Sure, they're going to try.
And I guess,
but how's that working?
I guess would you take their course?
And I know I can't remember when we talked, but I'm pretty sure it was during the playoffs. Like, I'm still shocked that they went out. I'm still shocked that Vegas beat them. I respect Vegas. I think Vegas they won the Stanley Cup, and they look good doing it.
Well, and the Oilers have lost now to the Cup champions in back-to-back years. They lost to the Avalanche in the Western Final last year, and they lost to Vegas.
And which series were they more competitive in? Seems like they hit the same wall, right?
Yeah.
So what are you? I understand the point. What they should be, but what are they? Vegas.
They're good every year.
Yeah.
What's Aiden Hill?
But are they a juggernaut? Well, that's my point.
What's Aiden Hill? What are they in goal?
Who's their goalie next year?
$1 million question.
Right. And at some point,
and all due respect to Aiden Hill, good Calgary boy.
Absolutely.
Anyone can get hot for a couple of months. We've seen it with lots of goalies in the past. And if
you know what this reminded me of? It reminded me of Leighton and Niemi.
You know what else it reminded me of? Andrew Hammond.
Yeah. The Hamburger.
Obviously, hadn't as low as Andrew Hammond. Aiden Hill's had a better career than Hammond to this point. But
don't you think Leighton and Niemi are more of the comparisons?
Yeah.
Right? Because
2010.
Niemi wasn't even qualified, he's qualified. He was let go by his team when they got the arbitration award. And I don't think we ever heard from Michael Leighton quite the same way again, did we? So I thought there's no reason to think the kid can't play. I don't know, but where's Robin Lehner in all of this? This is the part I don't understand. Really, I don't understand. So I could be convinced either way. Does their cap gymnastics ever catch up to them?
Oh, 100% it does. 100%. Now, maybe I shouldn't say 100. I should say maybe 90, because I do wonder, to your point about Lindholm's 8.5 earlier, like, if the cap jumps a lot here in the next 2-3 years, they're probably going to be okay.
Yeah, it's going to go up by 10 million.
So they should be fine.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think, and it's maybe for me, it's not only cap gymnastics, but it's constantly chasing that new toy. When does that catch up with them?
The other team that you didn't talk about is Los Angeles, and they're not going to go anywhere.
No, they're going to go like this.
They're going to go straight up. Vancouver, I don't know.
They're a mess.
San Jose, not
they're
yet.
They're a mess.
Anaheim, not yet. Who else moved? Did we move Detroit in the Pacific now, or what? I can't keep track.
Arizona still in Arizona?
Arizona? Who? Where? No, Hartford, you mean?
Salt Lake?
Yeah, that's another one right there, baby. Yeah,
that's the question you have to ask yourself internally. And I just think, for me, and I put this out there earlier, and I will end on this for Lindholm, a pretty little bow on it. I just think that you're putting yourself back in your circle. Like, it hasn't worked. What are we doing here?
No,
it's been 30 years of the same thing. And so,
but it's 30.
When are we going to change that?
It's 30 years of not, Yeah, exactly. It's
Like,
30 years of not being able to say the R
It's
word.
obviously not working.
The only thing, and I brought this up with Pike, you probably heard me, and I'm sure, we how many good rebuilds have there been?
Well, yeah, it hasn't really been done a lot, to be honest. It was done up north. It took forever, and it wasn't even.
No,
proper.
I'm talking about how many.
Clunky.
That was, but there was multiples, right?
Yes,
and
they're still in it. To be honest, they haven't climbed the mountain. I mean,
right.
Yes,
LA's in another version.
Yeah.
They're coming out of that. I look at finally it looks like Ottawa. So that's 2017, and now maybe in 2024.
Rangers just fired a coach, so they didn't really do it. The Devils.
Yes.
The Devils were absolute horse S forever.
You can say it, no matter.
Horseshit.
Yeah, they were.
And now I think they are on the rise.
But how many incarnations have we had of that?
Just one.
Really?
Yeah. Really? I mean, they were shit after Eliash and that core left, and they didn't really do much. Like, okay, they went to the cup final with Kovalchuk. After that, did they really do anything?
No, but that's what I mean. How many?
So it's been one build. Hasn't it, though? Like with this core group.
No, I think the build. 2017 they drafted.
When did they draft Hughes?
Oh, that's
18, 19?
No. Well, which Hughes?
20.
20. Hold on. No, it would have been
2019.
2019, yeah.
So I think the Devils are a one build team.
Okay.
They're not complete yet, obviously. They still need to find their goalie, which sounds like maybe they have in Winnipeg. But
Montreal's done it a couple times, right?
Yeah. Toronto's done it forever. You're right, though. It's not easy. And
it isn't easy. And
I said this earlier,
but I don't think that precludes you from doing it.
No. You
right?
Try.
Absolutely.
And even the quick builds, too. I mean, if you want to, if you are to trade a Backlund and a Lindholm, and you're getting similar type players in, and you're doing a rebuild on the fly, like we've heard so many times, you need so many things to go your way for that to happen.
Yeah.
So it ain't easy.
No, it's not. Although I do, we seem to work on the extremes. Let's come back to the middle a bit here. We won't talk about the kids. They're the players that might leave, but let's talk about the kids.
Mm-hmm.
We assume Wolf is coming here.
Yep.
What's a reasonable expectation for him? 20 to 30 games?
I think you probably want to see him in about 20 games. Yeah. And I think if he plays really well, you could probably see it upwards of 25. If he doesn't play so well, maybe you lighten that a little bit. But I think, and Elliot Friedman said this forever, you get to the goalies at the end of the season, the Stanley Cup final, and a lot of them don't end up in the 65-70 range. Like you can't
not
do
anymore.
That. So
not anymore.
Yeah, I think you probably go in with a target number of 20 and see how he does.
On the blue line, the Poirier kid isn't ready, is what I've been told. Like, I'm not expecting him to come into camp and earn a spot.
No, but I'm curious to see what he looks like in camp.
Yeah, and you could see him this year at some point. Up front, I think Coronado. I think
I don't know if he's guaranteed to be here, but I think he'll compete.
Okay.
I'm not sure his skating's ready yet.
Okay. Pelche.
I think he'll be here day
Yeah.
one.
Zary?
No.
Phillips?
I don't think he's here.
That doesn't feel like a lot of youth to me.
It doesn't.
Right?
And I think it's maybe at some point down.
Walker Dewar, in fairness, right?
Yeah, for sure. But in terms of your recent first-round picks, I don't know if we're talking about them all being here.
That's not a lot of youth.
No.
Right? Unless you're going to go out and get youth.
Yeah.
What do you want to get? What can you get out of this draft? Are people going to give you draft picks, or you have a better chance of getting somebody's prospects in this year's draft?
Well, that's a great question. 23, apparently the first round is very, very deep. So I do wonder how hard those picks will be to get next week. Certainly, some of the teams we've been talking about with some of these players like a Lindholm and a Hannafin. I don't know if you're getting a top 10 pick for those guys, but if you package it into a bigger deal, maybe you are. I do wonder, Rob, in terms of the youth, is Conroy's focus on the 24 draft? I don't know. Are those picks going to be easier to get? I don't know. But that kicks the can even further down the road. So it's going to be a tough one to juggle, I think. But I think as the night goes on, I put this on Twitter yesterday. How many times do you think Calgary's picking? in round 1 next week.
Well,
because I think it's more than what they got now. But I don't think it's a lot more.
Noah Hannafin bring you back a first round pick?
I think Noah Hannafin gets you a first round pick. Yeah.
Above the how would you say this correctly?
I think
1 to 20?
I think
can he get you into 1 to 20?
I think if you can package something else and I don't know, maybe you package your own 16th with it to make it happen. But I think Detroit's 9 is achievable for Hannafin. Because they gave up Phil Hronek to Vancouver. They've got, I think, 3 first-round picks. They've got 3 second-round picks.
I forgot about that.
They've got a lot of picks. So, I don't know. Maybe Yzerman's not looking at Hannafin, but they need a D on top 4. He fits a need for them. He plays a lot of minutes. That'd be a team I keep an eye on.
Wasn't Buffalo one of the teams that was rumored at one point?
Yeah. Even Washington, too. I think they're right in that range, too. 10, 11, maybe.
When's something going to happen?
Hopefully soon.
Well, I started off the week thinking,
when do the GMs arrive in Nashville? That's when it'll start going.
I guess so.
Sunday?
Who's more active, Calgary or Winnipeg?
Calgary.
Calgary's more active than Winnipeg.
I think they have better pieces. I think Winnipeg's not going to move Dubois just yet unless they get a killer deal before Thursday. And I think Winnipeg's willing to ride next year out with Dubois and trade him at the deadline. I do.
What about Hellebuck?
I think he's gone.
Yeah.
I think he.
So which is a better which is more valuable in the open market right now? Hellebuck or Lindholm?
Hellebuck or Lindholm?
Yeah.
Hellebuck.
Yeah. That's why I think Winnipeg is going to be more active.
Hellebuck or he's the best.
And it sounds like Wheeler's, and Wheeler's,
Wheeler's a guy that's going to eat half the money and go somewhere for a year. And sounds like it could be Minnesota back home. So, because they're a team that is loving to bring in players in their direction.
Speaking of perpetual rebuilds.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Good Lord. Holy cow.
I think the longest rebuild in the league right now was maybe Vancouver. They haven't been in the playoffs since 15.
Arizona?
Well, they have been in the playoffs in the bubble. That was a lie.
Actually won around 2, didn't they not?
Who, Vancouver? They went deep.
Yeah.
That was their whole overpicking Demko now because he was lights out.
That's right. Yeah. What about Arizona?
Yeah, they've been in a build.
They like forever, right?
They've been in a build in more ways than one, Rob, on the ice and off the ice.
I don't even talk about it anymore. I got it 10 years ago. Okay, it's a television market. All right, if you get out to Scottsdale, I get it. Okay. Mm-hmm. But now you've had a legitimate opportunity to be owned by the people down there, and they turned it down. But good Lord. And why wouldn't they do that for the other teams? Look at Atlanta. Like, nobody wanted Atlanta. They threw the keys in the middle. They had no choice. Right? I don't know. They talked to Jason Smith, not that Jason Smith, the other Jason Smith, who owns the Utah Jazz. Pretty sure that they've got Ryan Smith. Right. Jason, I got my Oilers captains mixed up. Ryan Smith that owns the Utah Jazz. I think they're trying to get him to do the shovel day off. But this got brought up. I don't know if this is legitimate or not. Do you want an expansion team or do you want a
Well, and I've heard this conversation a lot, and I think Elliot Friedman brings up a great point. Like, if you're Ryan Smith, and you're looking at what's happened in Seattle and Vegas, I want an expansion team.
Yeah. Now that the rules have changed.
I want my team, and I want to build it my way, and I want to, 100%.
Yeah.
If I'm going to spend that kind of money, I want my own team.
What do people in Columbus and Minnesota and all those other places think? Like, look at Columbus. I mean, God love them, and I love Ports Line, and I love the city. It's great and everything. They've been in for 2+ decades now and have nothing.
They've won one round.
Right?
One round.
Nothing.
They swept the Lightning.
Yet Vegas is 2 Stanley Cup finals and a championship already in 6 years.
Minnesota's never been to a cup final. Nope. Been to a West final.
Yeah. I just
Nashville, they've been to a cup final.
Unbelievable.
It is wild.
Who coaches the Calgary Wranglers? So Mitch Love has left. Who coaches the Calgary Wranglers?
Brent Kissio.
Okay. Coach Lethbridge Hurricanes, former assistant with Calgary, has coached with Hockey Canada, has that pedigree. Of course, his father, Kelly. I know who I think should.
Who's your pick?
Carla McLeod. I think it's about time. You show me another coach who has openly, on a big stage, shown me what Carla has shown me the last 2 World Championships.
It's been brilliant. I would love for her to get the job. Right?
And, building that culture and having that influence and making those players buy in and believe. I just, I wanted her to get interviewed for the Flames jobs or the assistant's job. I just don't, I hope I'm wrong, but I hope it happens, but I can't see anybody being better tactically, all of the little things that she is, deserves that opportunity.
This is going to piss people off, but
yeah.
Should she be an assistant first? She hasn't been hired in pro hockey. Is that going to scare some people away? I know she's coached Worlds. I just wonder about that too.
Dude, I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. Mitch Love came from the Western League, right in the American
but he was
League.
a head coach in the Western League. She's a head coach at high school, right?
No.
Where's she now?
UFC.
Oh, she's at UFC. Is right. Never mind. Sorry, Carla.
No. But that's part of it.
Yeah.
Will, it's like, on Wednesday, the Hall of Fame. Oh, there's Caroline Ouellette. Just one. Thank you. Why are we putting these restrictions on these things? By the way, Hockey Hall of Fame, not the NHL Hall of Fame. Let's make sure we point that point out.
Yep. Well, and I mean, really, people were laughing at the 3 goalies in the class, and I think it was Frank who put it out there. He goes, until now, there was only, I think, 12 goalies total before this class. So really, goalies have been ignored forever too. So.
Oh yeah. No.
There was a lot in that class where people were like,
we had Ryan and I had a fun question because I asked this, and this goes back, you and we've debated this before. Is Paul Henderson a Hall of Famer? At moment, what he did is incredible. Should that be something that maybe the Hall of Fame looks is adding some new categories? Oh, we can't do that. Well, why can't we? Why can't we have an international moment or Hall of Fame moment or something like that? Why couldn't we put? Because again, the honored members will always be the honored members. The media guys are in the Hall of Fame, but they're not the honored members. The trainers recognized, they're in the Hall of Fame in terms of their pictures, but they're not honor members. I get that. Honor members are honor members. That's cool. But why not have, more of a collection of, this was one of the great, bad example, but for my generation, the Washington Islander game, longest game ever in history. There should be some special recognition for that. Because it's referenced, it's talked about all the time, and Latvia this year, look at what they did.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, even just going back to Carla, full circle, shouldn't that Czechia first medal be in the Hall of Fame?
Now you could put it in the Hall of Fame, but I'm talking about actually recognizing.
Right.
The moment.
Yeah. It's overdue. And I think Hall of Fames are in that weird spot of trying to get things right, but they all just seem to not get it right. I don't know.
Well,
it's weird.
Is because and I had that conversation too. What is this need for secret ballots being public? Why is that necessary? I never question it at all. But now, the baseball players, they do that. The awards, they do that. I believe Ryan told me that they do the when they vote on the Elmer Ferguson, they make those public. We can't have a secret ballot. Why can't we have secret ballots anymore? I don't. Everything, in this world that we live in now, everything's got to be out in the open and got to be scrutinized.
Why don't you want it to be transparent? Why are you, I guess, the other way? Why do you like that it's secret?
Because I think it's in some ways it brings down the conversation and the accolade a little bit. Like, if you get recognized and you're put in the Hall of Fame, and listen, not publicizing the ballot would do the opposite. It would just add more scrutiny to it. But to me, the story almost now becomes the voting rather than the individual. Like, who voted for him? Why didn't they vote for him? He's not unanimous.
Are you referring to like, oh, you're the asshole that let Barry Bonds in? Or you're the asshole that let Pete Rose in?
Or you
whatever.
didn't, more likely, you didn't put him on your ballot, and you didn't. It seems like we spend more of sports time, says the man who started off this show with a 12-minute rant, more of our time in sports arguing about the processes rather than enjoying the exploits.
I guess just for me from the other side, like if Hall of Fames are so sacred and all that type of stuff, and the people that are in charge of putting players and or honored members in, shouldn't they be, because that's such a high position to be in, shouldn't they be held accountable and watched over in terms of like, as a fan, shouldn't you trust that process? And I think if you're behind closed doors, I think some of that trust is lost. That's just me. And I think
no, I get it, Willie. I get it. I get it.
That's a very powerful position.
It's to be in.
And you can just, that's like, it's the same, maybe not the same. But it's like referees or umpires making a bad call and never talking to the media about it.
No, it's the exact same.
Yeah.
It's the exact same. No,
there's no
accountability.
So that's why I don't like
the original Delicate Geniuses.
Yeah. That's why I don't.
No, I get it, but it's not a hill I'm prepared to die on. Don't get me wrong. I don't know if people appreciate how much work goes into making those decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And
because we don't know enough about it.
Well, I've done it because I was a voter, part of the selection committee for the Alberta Hockey Hall of Fame. Now, I would not equate that to the National Hockey.
No, for sure.
Don't get.
But
I know the responsibility that I had there.
But you only know that because you're involved. And I think for fans, don't you want to know how it's involved?
Yeah, but
what goes into it?
You don't have to do a heart surgery. And I'm not comparing the two. Oh boy, that's a bad example. But the point I'm trying to make is, there's a lot that goes into those decisions, right? Like, talk to Eric Tahachuk. When Mike Vernon gets nominated for the Hall of Fame, it's not like somebody has a copy of the Hockey News and a highlighter and goes, "How about him?" Right? There's a lot that goes into it. There's a case to be made. There's comparables, all of those sort of things, and yet McGillney doesn't get in. And to me, I'm gobsmacked by the outrage when a player doesn't get in. I'm absolutely blown away. Like, you're an idiot. You can't do that. How can you not put him in? Where I sat on Pat Burns, like, I didn't get it. Like, I know we wanted to rush it because he was dying. That's a sad story. But it's a process. And I put faith into the people that, and again, nobody has faith in people anymore. Right? I think we just established this. Nobody has faith in, we
don't trust the process because we got no faith in it.
So, Ryan was saying, do you if you're the Calgary Flames and you trade Elias Lindholm for 3 picks and a bottle of water, do you write a letter? And I don't even know where you'd write the letter anymore. I guess you put it on your website.
Is it Rob Kerr water though? Or is it just normal water? That's a huge, huge part of this.
Yeah, somebody's in trouble over that.
Uh-oh.
Well, I didn't. Yeah, it needs context. No, it needs context, right? Yes, no, I know. Anyway, you might have seen it floating around. No, the point I was making is, do the Flames, okay, they trade Lindholm for, 3 picks. Is it incumbent upon Don Maloney and Craig Conroy to write a letter and post it on the website and go, "Dear Flames fans, this is what we've done. This is where we're going. This is how we're going to get there. Here's the process."
It's not similar. How is trading a player and electing someone to the Hall of Fame similar?
Well, it's just talking about the process.
Oh,
you said the process. Yes. And Ryan had brought it up before. It's the process. We're fascinated by the process. Right?
Yes.
We need to see who voted and why they voted that way. Yeah. Here's the process. I would have done this. All right. But exactly how much work have you put into this? These voters are not there by accident, right? You know, there's some work that
they don't
goes
just
into
knock
this.
on the door and say, I want to vote today, and then they vote. That's not how it works.
No.
No.
At least it shouldn't.
No.
At least it shouldn't.
Thank God it doesn't.
But it's a process.
Yeah.
And okay, so if we're so big on processes, do we want a process? So if the Flames decide to trade Lindholm for picks, do we want, or they don't? They decide to.
Well, I think if fans had it their way, they'd absolutely love to have every GM's call log and who they talk to and what players they could have had. Come on. Of course we would.
Yeah. No,
but
you're right. 100%.
But
100%.
It's just not going to happen. It's just not the reality. So, yeah, tough one, but I see where you're coming at. I see where you're coming from because like there's a part of us that all wants to see how the sausage is made, right?
Absolutely. 100%. Do you have anything to plug?
No. Really don't.
You don't, eh?
No.
How about your social media?
You can follow me at Will_Nault on Twitter.
Okay. All right. Nothing else?
Well, I have Instagram, but I like to keep it a little low key.
Oh, do you? Low
Yeah.
key? Okay.
If you want to follow me on Instagram and I know who you are, I'll probably follow you back and I'll let you follow me. But I don't really do much on Instagram.
Yeah, I hope you'll let them follow you.
I just like to keep that stuff personal.
I'm kind of anxious to get the show over because went on my little rant at the beginning and I've just looked over at the machine and there's some.
How many bubbles you got?
Oh, quite a few.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Don't regret a single thing. You gonna come back again?
I would love to come back.
Okay. Let me know which team we're gonna all wear that day. Like I feel like I got left out today.
Blue too. This is good. The blue is by chance.
Yeah. No, you two
But,
could. You two.
What
could
kind of
be-
hat you got on though? I can't even see.
I think it's a Michigan.
Okay, that's the voice of Jack, who's wearing a St. Louis Blues Cardinals
Michigan something.
jersey.
It's a
And
weird
you're
hat.
wearing a Cardinals hat,
And you're wearing a Papa Roach hoodie.
no.
Papa
Oh,
Roach.
Papa Rob.
Papa Rob.
This is my this is my Parachutes for Pets sweatshirt that I just got with Papa Rob on it because I am old, cranky, and grumpy, and my friends over there think that I'm a lot like Papa Smurf. That's all that I can come up with. So I got a sweatshirt with Papa Rob on it.
I like it.
So,
But it's not blue like the Smurfs.
No.
Okay.
No. I drew the line there. I said, not on my watch.
No.
Not on my watch. Were you 7HL today?
No, I was on Wednesday though.
Okay. I heard you got in some trouble. I heard you did something I did a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, but you'll like this though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got a little mad at Sailor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
We've both been there.
Then Randy Kwong says to me after, he goes, "It's okay." I told him in the locker room after that, "Hey, Sailor, Will just did what we all wanted to do for years, so it's fine. It's totally okay."
There's a
zero context to anybody listening. But,
no,
it's
but
all good.
I listen. The 7HL listens to this podcast, so they will get it, and I know it, and Sailor knows it, and you know it, and I'm proud of you.
And then I messaged him and I said, "Yeah, sorry about that." Popped a
Did you
couple
have to?
Yeah, I felt bad.
Okay.
I like Sailor. He's a good guy.
He is a great guy, but we've both been there.
Yeah.
We've both been there.
He's being a bit of a Richard.
Okay. I see what you did there. Guest brought to you, and he's a guest. Will Nault. Thanks, buddy.
No problem.
Brought to you by Ski Cellar Snowboard. SkiCellarSnowboard.com. 76 years. Snow in the mountains is weak. So it's not that far away. It never, ever is. So if you're looking for skis, bindings, how about snow skating? All of these things. Head on down to the one location that's open. There's 4 in the winter, 1 in the summer. McLeod Trail by Chinook Center. Before we go, let's start with the golf tournament. I mentioned my good friends at Parachutes for Pets. We've got our first golf tournament coming up on August 24th at Speargrass. It's Tee It Up for Pets. You can see the QR code. We'll hold it. Or you can go on the website and get a hold of us at Parachutes for Pets. We'd love to have you. It's going to be a big, huge, fun day. A couple of surprises. And Speargrass, Willie's been out there. They treat you like, beautiful. They treat you good. So I would love to have you. Make sure you join us. Check it out. Lots of grumpiness today. And I'll finish with grumpiness. But before we do that, I'm going to hold on the Adam. Let's go to Lanny. Okay. That's Lanny McDonald. Like this is what you do after a tense show. you show a picture of Lanny McDonald receiving his Queen Elizabeth II Platinum Jubilee Medal, which I believe Mike Vernon also got this week, along with the Hall of Fame. So talk about a week for Vernie. There you go. I just wanted to put that in your storyline or your timeline. And finally, I'll just go back to where I started. This is significant for me. It always is. It's important for me to be an ally. We start this program by talking about its inclusion. I fully expect that eggs were broken today, and that's okay. I fully expect that some people are probably angry at me for the language, and that's okay too. I get it. But this one, I'm not sitting out. The decision made by the National Hockey League yesterday was done for the wrong reasons, and it's empowered a group that doesn't need to be empowered. It doesn't need to be heard from. There is no room for homophobia. There is no room for discrimination. Love is love. Hate is hate. And if you're mad at me today because I have somehow outed you as a hateful person because you've determined that particular group is not equal to me or my friends, that's your problem, not mine. I will always be here. As I said off the top, I've got friends, I've got coworkers, I got family in that group, and I'm going to protect them and fight for them as I will for young athletes, as I will for my friends on the Seven Nations, as I will for my friends up in the Northeast that are trying to put, I got to tell you, I was at a basketball program in Marlborough last night watching it. And there are some great people in this community trying to lift us up. And the National Hockey League messed this up. Hopefully they'll learn from it. Hopefully they'll change. Coming up on Monday, Mike Moriali, the president of the Canadian Elite Basketball League, will join us. Also, you can bet we'll have some hockey. Later on in the week, Boomer's going to be in Nashville. My God, what bad can possibly come of that? So lots to do next week. Thanks to our producer, Jack, who was absolutely outstanding today. Thanks to you guys. We will see you on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody.
When there's two sides to every coin.